Now, Anton, initially we talked about making this session about penalties, but then in the light of recent, or say a couple of last week's developments, we said, let's talk about Penguin as well. And I think it's very, very important to make that distinction. There are penalties and there are algorithms. And for you guys, I suppose this is straightforward. But in my experience, my professional experience, both within Google and outside, there's a lot of confusion about whether those two are mutually exclusive, whether they are the same thing, and how to approach them. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. But what I want to start off really is the blog post that has been the announcement of what we in the industry refer to as Penguin 4.0. And I always take great pleasure in looking into those because I had the opportunity to really myself spearhead outreach for EMEA for a long time. So it's kind of reading between the lines, if you know what I mean. Indeed, there are two really important messages when we look at that article that has been shared on Google Webmaster Central. Now, the one thing says Google is now real-time. Everybody can see that completely clearly. And this is great news for everybody, right? We don't have to wait anymore. And the other message says it's going to be more granular. Well, we still need to see how granular it will be for the sites affected, but it is good news indeed. There is one piece of information, however, which is kind of, I think it went a little bit, it's got a little bit less attention if you want. And the blog post basically says, stop asking questions about updates because we won't give you any more. Now, not everybody on the Google team abides to that, as there has been a couple of comments in regards to Penguin thereafter. But essentially the message says, let us work, no more updates to be expected. And that is something really important because, as we all know, algorithms are but perfect. And I was surprised if Penguin 4.0 were the perfect algorithm, there will be updates going forward. Except now, there will be very likely less updates or no updates on when they're actually planned or if. And I think this is something that we need to keep an eye on as an industry. This is an important piece of information, also for communication with clients. And I'm curious, I don't want to monopolize too much. I really like to think of this webinar as a conversation and discussion. So I'm curious what the other people think.
Well, I've certainly got to agree with you. I mean, when I think there was a lot of nervous people when there was the announcement that Google wasn't going to be giving anybody any sort of heads up in the future when there's any updates. So I think from here on in, there's certainly an impetus on the. Like I said, you've got to really sort of keep an eye on what's going on with your site as well. Like I say, if trying to sort of match up with what the industry is talking about, I mean, it's going to be more awkward for those that don't necessarily follow sort of SEO on us like an hour by hour, sort of minute by minute sort of basis.
I've never really relied on Google for information. I think it's wrong. Like, you can't really trust them very much. That we have, what's in my interest is usually it's like a win-lose situation. I kind of got used to working in a cloud.
So you never even read any of my pieces at the time?
No, I read, but I don't rely on Google for data, and a lot of it I either don't believe or take with a big grain of salt. Like Google, like they lie by omission, they lie by commission. There's not a lot of trust on my end to Google. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but just how I've always operated on the assumption that they're out to fuck me, basically. That's always been the assumption.